I'm Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2. I played on the Xbox Series X via backwards compatibility. It's also available on the Xbox One, Xbox 360, PS3, and PC. So let's get into the story. You play as the clone of Starkiller. You are cloned by Darth Vader for his nefarious purposes, and well, you turn on him immediately. And the DLC is once again very much a what if story, but it, funny enough, predicts that Leia became a Jedi, so I found that amusing. That being said, the story is short, and it feels way shorter than the previous game. It definitely feels like it needed to be a couple missions an hour or two longer, something like that, to really flesh it out. Now let's get into the audio, and the first thing I'm going to say is, once again, the voiceover work is really well done. I think they did a good job with that. I think the actors did a good job capturing the characters. As for the music, once again, it really captures the Star Wars vibe, so no complaints there. And for the sound effects, I think they do a really good job overall. There were a few places where there were either really muted sound effects or a few missing sound effects, but for the most part, I think the sound effects work very well. They very much fit in the Star Wars universe. Now let's get into the gameplay mechanics and whatnot, and this is a third-person action game with RPG elements, not unlike the first game. It is, once again, level by level, just like the first game. You are there to complete your mission. There are no, sub-missions that you get extra points or whatever for, which I felt was a little disappointing. The combat is very similar. It's lightsaber and force-based, and once again, you do feel really powerful as a force user in this game. Although it definitely feels like a game that you need a couple playthroughs to, max out your force abilities. Once again, you can customize your lightsabers, but because it's a sequel, you have 2 lightsabers. But you can customize their colors, and each color can be different. So you could have a red one and a green one, or a purple and a green one, or whatever you want to do. I wound up with 2 different shades of green because I liked the stats that they boosted. And that is one of the interesting things, is they will boost your different stats. Really, the biggest gameplay mechanic difference is that they added a rage mode. I don't know if you really call it that, I can't remember what it's called, but where you do different attacks than you would normally do. They're more powerful, they can one-shot things, you can wreck some of the larger enemies very quickly, etc. I guess the other really big difference is that everything works far better. The auto-targeting system isn't perfect, but it's so much better than the first game. The combat is so much smoother. The ability to move things and control them with the Force, and again, targeting is not perfect, but it's better. All of that combined, the gameplay is just far superior. Now let's get into the controls, and the controls, again, are far better. There were a few times where the camera, moved itself in a way that I didn't like, and it caused me to jump to my death. But when you jump to your death, you don't have to spend 5 fucking minutes waiting for it to fade to black, and then fade back in, and then be able to move. So, huge benefit there. But like I said, overall controls were very good. I was much happier. I think the QTEs worked far better in the sequel than in the first game. And then lastly, the graphics and visuals, and again, just far better. This game looks so much better. Now, this being a 360 PS3 era game, it's obviously not going to hold up to the Xbox Series X or even the Xbox One graphically, but it looks just so much better than the first game. And it really just kind of takes the first game and smears its face in the mud. It looks so much better. I mean, your characters, their faces move in much more realistic ways, considering they actually use facial capture like they tried to in the first game. The cloth, the way it moves is far better. Just visually, everything, there's more detail, it looks more realistic, it hits that hyper-realism just a little bit better, while it still doesn't look as good as modern stuff. Far superior. And once again, I like the smaller details. I like your character's outfits changing from level to level. I like just the world in general. I think they still did a great job designing new stormtroopers that you haven't seen in other games. You know, different AT-STs, I think they are. Other robots. Just everything that they added does feel like it fits in the Star Wars universe. I think they did very good with that. I like how each level does feel very unique and different. And they have their own designs, their own technology. I think just overall, I like the world they built. I just wish I could have spent more time in it. I wish the story had been longer so that I could have spent more time appreciating these superior visuals to the first one. I also like, and I didn't really mention this in my review of the first one, I think the force powers and the visuals they've attached to those are pretty cool looking. I like the way that looks. I think they did a good job representing that in video game form. So to wrap this up, I am so much happier with this game than I was the first game. Maybe playing them right in a row gave me that perspective. So to put it simply, I'm not unhappy that I paid for this game. I actually enjoyed replaying it. I'm really glad I did. So I would recommend Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2, whereas, just watch a video explaining what happened in the first one. Okay, so in the comments down below, why don't you tell me, are there any games out there where you played the first one and you're like, I don't see how this will ever get a sequel? And then it did, and you were glad it got a sequel. As always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, and if you like what I'm doing in general, share and subscribe. Have a good one.